I'm ready to ask you. I'm so ready to ask you this question. I'm so excited. And we talked about it before. It was about self-consciousness. Because what's interesting about the mind is that the cortex is surrounding the brain, and we have the ability to perceive ourselves outside of ourselves, which is pretty cool. And a good example would be like when your ears are working perfectly, you hear sound and you don't hear your ears. When your eyes are working perfectly, you see and you don't see your eyes. Well, when your self is working properly, you're not getting in the way of yourself.
We have a question for you. If a tree falls in the forest and there is no one there with ears to hear it, did it make a sound? No, it didn't. There was no sound, because sound is what the ear does to vibration. The ear translates vibration into what is called sound. So, as you are standing in your physical body, rather than talking about your brain and the way it is working and things that are very difficult for you to accurately diagnose, it's our promise to you that if you will, you see, what you just said to us really matters, and it's really important, and this is the way we have been saying that same thing. If you are more aware of what you are perceiving and less aware of how you are being perceived, now you can stay in the art of allowing all the time. But in the moment that your perception is about trying to understand somebody else's perception, now you introduce all kinds of resistance into the equation, and now you're not seeing anything in this moment through the eyes of source. So what we want you to come along with us on, because you're stepping in the direction of it, but come all the way with us in this understanding that you have a source who is flowing to you and through you. In fact, everyone who has ever lived is, from the non-physical point of view, looking with you and through you to this moment in time about the thing that you are focused upon, with enormous clarity from that vantage point of this very subject. So what you're reaching for, that outside yourself part, we want you to realize that you can call it outside yourself because it's a whole lot of consciousness that's looking right here and now. But if you're tuning yourself to the frequency of it, then you're not outside of it. You are it. That knowing is yours in this moment. It's not you regurgitating something that someone else knows. It's your knowledge. You own it. It is you. It is your point of attraction. It is your convergence. It's all of that consciousness and intelligence converging with you right here and now. That's what you're reaching for. That's what clarity is. Anything less than that is not true clarity. When you, in your self-consciousness, and self-consciousness is usually some attitude of inadequacy because someone who is not tuned in, tapped in, turned on has been looking at you and have convinced you of what their point of view is. So they have helped you and you have allowed them to introduce resistance into your equation. So you're not allowing yourself to feel the fullness of all that you are. There's a tendency to want to give it all kinds of labels. Well, I'm looking outside of myself. And we say, all that's happened is you have become more conditional than you meant to. You are letting conditions that you can't control be factors in your vibrational offering, which is setting up resistance, which is clouding the view between you and you see.
I know, let's change the channel.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
Solution-based. I want enlightenment. I want to feel like I'm floating 2 inches off of the ground. I'm high.
So just find it and feel it and notice it and remember it and practice the feeling of it, and don't beat up on yourself when you're not there. And here's something that works against you. A desire like that when you're not there, if you beat up on yourself, then it's counterproductive. But how about this? Let's say high and happy is what you want, and you've demonstrated that for us, and we all know how much you like that. So high and happy is what you want, and let's say you're not high and happy in some moment, but you want to be. But you can't get there all at once because there's a bit of a vibrational stretch between what you might be feeling wherever you are and that high and happy. We want you, rather than saying, I want to be high and happy, we want you to say, I want to feel the path of least resistance in the direction of high and happy. A while ago when we were talking about the emotional scale, and we were saying if you're depressed, then anger is a very good goal to shoot for, because it's the path of least resistance. It feels much better than the defeat or the fear or the discomfort that you are feeling in this moment. So path of least resistance, it's the relativity between where you are and where you want to be. And we want you to hear this more than we've ever wanted anybody to hear anything. We want you to hear this. It doesn't matter if you get all the way there. It only matters that you move in the direction of the path of least resistance. It's not the path of no resistance. We're not saying clean it all up right now. We're saying feel for it and reach for the path of least resistance. Which thought feels better? So we have some questions for you. Does it feel better to you to be outrageously happy or outrageously depressed? Which feels better? We know it's a ridiculous question, but answer it anyway. Which feels better?
Can I say in between?
You can say whatever you want.
Sustained.
So what you're saying is, what are you saying?
I don't want to just be like, woo, I'm happy, and then I'm like, well, that was cool. How did I get there? I want to know how I got there and then get there consciously and be in control of it and maintain it.
Well, that's what we want for you too. But how do you get there from where you may be in any point in time? By giving yourself a break, by not asking for more than you can do, by letting where you are be okay, by wanting to feel just a little better than you do, by recognizing that you can feel a little better. You might not have the ability from where you are to feel a lot better right now, but you can feel a little better. And why does that matter? Because you have knowledge about the laws of the universe, because you know about vibration, and because you accept that you have an inner being, and you have a true conscious sense of this path of least resistance, because you trust in your own goodness and your own well-being. And while you might not have confidence in your ability to hold yourself there all day, every day, and we want to say no one does, stuff happens that knocks you off your game. But you know what? That stuff that happens that knocks you off your game is part of the path too. Because how are you going to know what you do want unless you have some of what you don't want? You're just molding the clay. No one is holding you to standards of perfection except maybe you. And if you will stop it, you will feel better as you are moving along. Yeah. So you're not trying to tell us that you were faking all that happiness just now, are you? 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 It was real, wasn't it? It was real, wasn't it? You felt true enthusiasm. Were you feeling it?
If you could see a scale, so I get up on stage and it's like, oh, my blob, and then it's like, whoa.
Well, then you just stayed too long, that's all. That's all. Just stayed too long. Get out. No.
I'm going on tour with you.
Just don't ask things of you that you're not able to sustain, and make whatever you are able to sustain all right. That's the answer, you see. And you hit on something so important, because you really care about how you are perceived. Almost everyone does. It's not easy to be in this world with so many people looking at you, and all of you making all of your decisions about what you're wanting about things. In other words, there is a really comparative experience. But hear this, the reason that so many people, you included, almost everyone included, are so hung up on it mattering what everybody else thinks is because you have been practicing a conditional response to life that is not serving you. And instead of practicing that condition, I need that to be this way before I can feel better, you begin to care about how you feel apart from the condition. And you show yourself that you have the ability to adjust the way you feel, even if the condition doesn't change. You will find a freedom in that. And in time, and we believe in a very short time, the opinions of others will become less relevant. So let's take this further, because some of you are right there with it. Let's take it to the point of complete understanding. So, path of least resistance, is that making some sense to you? You get it, that your inner being is there and calling you, and that's why there even is a path. And when you let yourself go, which means you don't try too hard and you're not too introspective about it, you just sort of feel your way along, it works rather well. Path of least resistance. All right. Now somebody else enters the equation. You know what you do usually as humans? You're so service-oriented, and that's nice. We're born to be uplifters. You try to do something that isn't possible. You try to figure out what the path of least resistance is for others. So you try to adjust yourself to make their path better. They'd be happier if they liked me. They'd feel better if they liked me. So I'll do a jig, I'll stand on my head, I'll do whatever it takes to make their path of least resistance easier for them. And what happens is you can't serve two masters. In doing that, you lose your sense of what your path of least resistance is. And so then there's this one and this one and this one and this one, and then pretty soon you're saying they're never satisfied. You become so conscious of how others feel about you. And the thing that is so ridiculous, we love you so much, about that is that you can't control the way they feel about you, because most of them don't have control yet of their own relationship with their own inner being. And so you're running around trying to help people to feel certain ways about you. Esther's laughing at herself not too long ago as she heard herself really working hard to make someone understand exactly what she meant. Someone who wasn't getting it. Not even close. She was being so misunderstood, completely misunderstood. She couldn't believe that she could be so completely misunderstood by someone who had known her for so long. How could they not understand what she meant? And after a little while, she just said, I'm giving this up. There are not enough hours in the day or enough years left for either of us for me to convince you. And then she felt freedom right away, because she realized that wasn't her job anyway. That wasn't her job to convince somebody else. And yet that's what most of you are doing. She used to say to Jerry, let's talk about this, because I want to know what you think about this. And Jerry would wisely say, he'd get that silly grin on his face, I don't think you really want to know what I think. I think you want me to agree with you. And Esther would say, oh no, but it was for sure what she was going for, you see. Because there is a nice validation that comes when someone else is in agreement with you. But you only need that validation when you're not sure. And when you are allowing yourself to find resonance with the source within you, a clarity and an empowerment and a certainty comes. And then you can begin to be the few people on the planet who really live and let live, where you can allow others to feel however they want to feel about whatever they want to feel about, and it doesn't rock your boat, because what they think about anything is not part of the equation between you and you see. And then that self-consciousness goes away, in the sense, self-consciousness, we never want self-consciousness to go away. And everything that we teach is about consciousness of self. We want your inner self, we want the self that is really you, to be allowed by you to be purely reflected. Because when in any moment in time you are allowing the whole of you to be reflected, then you're kind and you're considerate and you're wise and your timing is really, really good. And you evoke upliftment from others. In other words, you let the dominant thing within you be to be in alignment, so that you teach through the clarity of your example what alignment is. But going about it in any other way is counterproductive. In fact, so counterproductive that we would be so bold as to say that when you set out in service of others' opinions and attitudes, that it backfires 100% of the time. They will always let you down. They will never, ever see it the way you think you need them to see it in order for you to find alignment, because you're looking for love in all the wrong places. Really good.
That was awesome.